Welcome again to Joe Stunner Boxing. As you are well aware, December the 23rd, the day of reckoning is almost upon us, so let's get some predictions out there. I did a video last week on AJ against Otto Wallin. Not so much a prediction video, but I talked about the fact that this is not a foregone conclusion, as many people are saying. I definitely make AJ the favourite for reasons I'm going to go into. But look, when you're old enough to have seen Lloyd Hannigan smash up Donald Curry or Buster Douglas knock out Mike Tyson, you know that you should never take anything in this game for granted. Okay, so let's just go through a few things. Otto Wallin, mentally, I think he's very strong, very capable. He's got enough technique, enough basic skills down pat to give anyone something to think about. I like the fact that he seems cool under pressure. He seems to have a pretty decent jaw. And he's one of those guys who doesn't do everything, doesn't do anything spectacularly, but he does everything well. And when you're an good all-round fighter with some self-belief, which he apparently seems to have, you can give anyone problems. Now, the knock against Wallin is that he's made his bones, if you like, over one fight, which is going the distance with Tyson Fury and cutting him very badly. Okay, that fight would probably have been stopped had it not been Tyson Fury, had it have been an undercard fight or whatever. Had the boot been on the other foot and Wallin had suffered that cut against Fury, they'd have stopped the fight in favour of Fury. They didn't, and Fury, despite the cut and despite losing a few rounds, he did win kind of comfortably. But Wallin kind of announced himself, because prior to that he was unknown. I mean, heavyweights from Sweden, especially ones with his style, not a particularly exciting style at all, you'd think, okay, I'm not really that interested. But because he did that to Fury, he went the distance, he cut him badly, lots and lots of stitches, etc., people say, okay, yeah, you've got our attention. But he didn't really build on that. He kind of, trod water, and he got a points decision over Dominic Brazil, and which is not bad. Brazil, despite being obliterated by Wilder in one round, is not a bad heavyweight. He's not technically particularly good, but he's extremely game and isn't afraid to have a punch up and can hang tough himself. He showed a lot of fortitude himself. I mean, say what you like about being blown away by Wilder, but he was on his way up. I mean, the guy's got guts. The guy's got guts. Apart from that, like I said before in a previous video, Rydell Booker, Murat Gasayev was really is still a cruiserweight in my opinion, and definitely has a sort of, he just doesn't have the style as much as the size. He's not like Alexander Usyk, who had a style, the footwork, the ability, the schooling to beat a lot of guys who naturally are much bigger. With Gasayev, you thought he's just too small and his style does not lend itself to the really big boys, and it doesn't. And Otto Wallin was able to win a split decision over him. And that was only in September, so it's not a million years ago. But I do like Wallin's self-belief. I do like the fact that if you look at the countries he's fought in, obviously he's fought in Sweden, he's fought in Latvia, he's fought in the United States, he's fought in Britain, Germany. I mean, he's a bit of a road warrior and kind of an unsung hero, well, an unsung fighter somewhat. I'm sure in Sweden he's very highly thought of. But is he actually that good? I mean, he went the distance with Fury, but that, if you look at his resume, nothing really jumps out of you. I would certainly put him in the top 15, maybe the top 12 heavyweights. But I think he's a universe away from, say, the top 4 or 5. I don't think he's a bad fighter. I think he's perfectly capable of maybe being navigated towards a title in the same way that Joseph Parker was. I think Parker's probably got a bit more natural talent, but maybe psychologically or his mindset, his mentality is somewhat different. Wallin is a boxer. He likes to box. He doesn't like to slug or fight. There haven't been many occasions in his career, at least not that I've seen, where he's got down in the trenches and really had it with someone. But that's not to say he rolls over. But if possible, he will stick to his boxing, like he did against Brazil, like he did against Gassiev. Although he did kind of sting Gassiev a little bit, yeah. I mean, but again, Gassiev is a much smaller man, naturally, in terms of natural weight. Now, if Otto Wallin's mentality is capable of giving Anthony Joshua problems, I would go as far as to say Anthony Joshua's mindset, is in danger of giving Anthony Joshua problems, because as we've said before so many times, Joshua, it isn't the only issue with him, but his psyche, his psychology definitely bears mentioning. And that is not to say, look, let me make one thing clear. I don't think Anthony Joshua is a bad fighter. I don't think he lacks courage. I don't necessarily think he lacks self-belief, although I think his confidence has dipped considerably. I think the problem with Joshua is that he's lost, I've said this for a couple of years now, he's lost his identity. Probably not just as a fighter, but as a man as well. Because he was tearing up trees right up to the Andy Ruiz fight. I know he had a life and death up and down with Klitschko, but he actually took a lot from that, where it was proven that he could get off the floor, that he could face a big puncher, that he could outlast. I mean, okay, Klitschko was no spring chicken, but he wasn't. He was probably in as good a condition as he was ever going to be, and mentally was prepared for that fight, certainly. But Joshua had him on the floor, and Joshua outlasted him and proved that he could be in a slugfest, they could be life and death, and he could come through it. It was the moment that he got tagged by that counter hook from Andy Ruiz that mentally the problems began, for me. That's the way I see it. Because don't forget, he came out in that fight, regardless of whether he'd had a concussion in training, regardless of what was going on behind the scenes. There obviously was something going on, but we didn't know what it was. He came out looking to get rid of Ruiz quick and had him on the floor. Ruiz gets up and with virtually the next punch hooks AJ onto the canvas. I mean, it was one of the great heavyweight rounds of the last 5-10 years. But from that moment on, and from that fight, from being smashed to bits, up and down, and by the way, he didn't quit, Joshua. People say, oh, he quit. A lot of crap. He was bewildered, he was befuddled, he was in the corner, but when the ref waved it off, he was like, what are you doing? No, come on, I'm okay. But there's no doubt that is humiliation too strong a word? I would say not. That definitely made him question everything. And suddenly the guy who met Dillian White in the middle of the ring in the opening seconds and tried to knock him out in one round and was sticking his tongue out and was trying to humiliate the guy who'd been very, very lippy beforehand, suddenly that guy was long gone. That sort of, that roadman mentality, for want of a better phrase. It was replaced by someone who didn't seem to really know what he should do. I've been knocked down several times in one fight. I've been kind of humiliated by this little fat man. What the hell? That wasn't supposed to happen. What do I do? And he did what a lot of fighters are prone to do, which is to change trainers. Robert Garcia, that didn't work out. I mean, this was several fights later on, of course, after he lost again to Usyk. But Robert Garcia didn't work out. In comes Derek James. And now he's on Ben Davison. Is James still in the picture? He says, yep, Derek James is my trainer, but I'm working with Ben for this fight for logistical reasons. Okay. My immediate reaction when I heard that Ben Davison has stepped in was, okay, Ben Davison is a thinker. He's a very cerebral guy. He likes to have all his ducks in a row. He likes to have everything in place. He likes to have a game plan, a set game plan. He likes his fighters to do exactly what they're told. And so maybe that would suit Joshua. Maybe Joshua would think, this is my guy. Yeah, okay. Because Joshua's the type of guy, he's got to be told what to do. He's not like a Fury who can do it on the fly. Joshua has to be told, okay, I want you to do this, I want you to do this. And in between rounds, you've heard Joshua talk to his trainers and say, what do I do now? What do you think of that? And this is a guy who thinks and thinks and thinks and ultimately overthinks and second guesses. Now, my immediate reaction, like a lot of people, was, if he's got somebody like Ben Davison in place, maybe that'll be beneficial because he'll know, okay, Ben's going to tell me what to do. Ben's going to do this. However, there is a flip side to that, which is that perhaps he might find Ben Davison giving him too much information. In which case, Joshua, in that second guess, overthinking mindset that he has, he might start to get even more confused in his mind. Because Davison is very specific. He is the type of guy who wants precision in terms of game plan, in terms of what the other guy's doing. He wants, in terms of what you should do to him. And when he does that, you need to do that, not that. And, there is no... Look, I really like Davison. I think Ben Davison's a good trainer. But different trainers suit different fighters. No trainer can train everyone. It's just not possible. Being a trainer is like being an amateur shrink. It's like being a hand, an arm around the shoulder, a father figure, a big brother, a technician, someone who you trust, ultimately who you trust. And I just feel that Joshua, even though I do like Davison and I think maybe it could work with Joshua, I do worry that Joshua might take on all that very precise information, all those instructions that are so on point. And if one thing doesn't work out, the whole house of cards comes falling down in his mind. Do you know what I mean? It can work that way. Now, you could say, well, that will happen with Joshua with whatever trainer he has. Yeah, I agree with you. I agree. There is a lot of truth in that. But anyway, let's get back to this fight in hand. Otto Wallin, who, like I say, I think I've been quite impressed with his mentality. He's quite a conservative fighter. He's not someone who's going to slug with you. And we've not seen him under any great duress, ever really tested. But I get the impression he's quite a cool head. And I don't expect him to be remotely intimidated by Joshua. I just wonder if the fight starts to drag on and Wallin finds his rhythm, finds the jab, that annoying jab, just like even Hellenius was bloody in AJ's nose in the early rounds. Jermaine Franklin, he won rounds. Joshua clearly beat Hellenius. Well, he knocked out Hellenius, but he clearly beat Franklin. But there were moments where Franklin was having success. And where Joshua was it almost looked like he was on the leash. He wanted to break free. And again, this is an identity thing. I think Anthony Joshua, by far, is the best fighter when he is box fighting. When he is using the jab, bang, bang. But ultimately, at the foreground of his mind at all times is, I'm going to land this big right hand. I'm going to fire this big left hook. I'm going to be the oppressor. I'm going to be the guy who smothers you mentally and physically. I'm going to be the guy who spills all over you like sauce over spaghetti. I'm going to be the guy who puts a world of hurt on you. He's not the type of guy naturally who thinks, okay, I'll jab, 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 right hand. Oh, I've got to be careful. I've got to be cautious here. So I'll go back to my jab. A lot of people said under Derek James they saw improvements of his boxing, better jab, better footwork. Okay. In a technical sense, maybe, but it just didn't seem to me like he was being his true self. Like he was, and of course, with any new trainer, you have to work, repetition, in order for things to become second nature. And it did seem to me like AJ was kind of forcing the issue a lot, especially against Jermaine Franklin. Against Hellenius, late replacement and... everyone expected him to get rid of Hellenius in a couple of rounds, and he got the job done eventually, but he had his nose blooded and there was blood out of his mouth. I just wonder where he's at the moment mentally. Now, this is his third fight this year, Joshua, so big respect for that. He's keeping busy. He's trying to rebuild. He's not old for a heavyweight. He's only 34. It's not that old for a heavyweight. So he's got some time. He's got 2 or 3 years left. But if he's chopping and changing his trainers again, if Ben Davison stays on for the long haul and he ditches Derek James, I just wonder, is he... It's almost like, I'm a musician, if you make an album and then you scrap it and you start another album and then you don't like that, so you scrap that. But sometimes you're throwing the baby out with the bathwater. It's not a case of, well, I've got 10 or 12 songs. I like 6 or 7 of them. Yeah, I can do that. I'll get rid of those few. It's not a case of quality control. It's a case of scrapping stuff and starting again. I don't think you can do that with a trainer. It takes too long. It takes a couple of years to get in sync with the guy, really, for what you're learning to become second nature because of the needed repetition. Now, having said all that, I do think that Joshua will have enough nous, will have enough experience, will have enough skills and weight of punch to contain Wallin, even though I expect Wallin to win some rounds. I think probably what will happen is there might be a battle of the jabs. Wallin might pick up a few rounds, but I think once he feels the weight of Joshua's punch, and as the fight progresses, I see Joshua's confidence perhaps building. You could say the same about Wallin, but I've just got a feeling that once Joshua's confidence builds, he'll get that jab pumping a bit more, and he'll start letting the right hand go more. And the one thing we know about Anthony Joshua is he can wallop. And once he puts it on Wallin, he's not short. I mean, he's 6'5", 6'6", something like that. Nevertheless, Joshua is a big, imposing man when he gets a rhythm going. I see this being a distance fight. I think, again, Wallin will win rounds, probably in the first 8 rounds. He'll pick up maybe 3 or 4 rounds, 2, 3, 4 rounds. But overall, I see Joshua, again, not particularly impressively, but over the course of 36 minutes of fighting, I think Joshua will pull away in the last third or quarter of the fight, do enough, and win a decision around the 116, 112 mark. So I'm picking Anthony Joshua to win by decision, 8 rounds to 4 roughly, something like that. Maybe 9-3. I don't know whether he'll stop Wallin. I think Wallin's got enough about him, enough toughness and enough belief to maybe hang tough when the going does get tough. But I do see Joshua winning enough rounds to win. Probably not such an impressive performance, but nevertheless a clear enough decision over Otto Wallin. That's my take on it. So what do you think? Do you agree with me? Do you think Wallin will win? Who do you think's got this one? Let me know below. It's going to be great. This Day of Reckoning thing is going to be terrific, I tell you. And I think this fight, it'll have its moments. I think it'll be a thriller, but I think it'll be an interesting, intriguing fight. Like I say, comments below. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe. Please hit the like button as well. And as always, thank you for your time. I'll catch you later. Bye for now.